Hello again, guys, it is iFree700. We are back with some Legacy of Kain lore. This time, what the fuck is the Razielum, also known as Raziel's clan? Here we go. The Razielum. What more is there to say, other than they were just a group of pious individuals, believing they were too great, being Kain's most favored of sons. Indeed, what they had coming to them was just deserved. At least I think that's what Kain would say. You see, Razielum, now the reason why we say Razielum instead of Raziel's clan is because in the game they actually don't call them the Razielum, but the more or less trend when it comes to the other vampire clans or vampire legions is that they usually take the name of their inheritor and they just add Elielum to it. Like, Duma leads the Duma hymn. So Raziel leads the Razielum. It's just the way the trend tends to go. Now, with the Razielum clan, most of what we know about the clan is pretty obscure. It's not really well documented in the games. So most of the info we have is actually from the development team itself and from the canceled game Nosgoth. So we're going to be drawing a lot of lore from these two areas in particular. Something else that we're going to be drawing is that Raziel and all the other vampire lieutenants of Kain, their clans imitated traits and aspects of them. After all, they are the forebearers of their clan. They created these clans with their own blood. So it would make sense that they do share a lot in common. So we're going to also draw aspects from the games based on Raziel's personality in general, as far as we've seen at the beginning. So, Raziel, as far as we've seen, is a very pious and righteous individual. He always believes in a code of honor. He always believes that there's right and wrong in the world. And with this moral compass, it's pretty safe to say that the Razielum clan would pretty much fall under that category. They were probably a bunch of righteous individuals, so full of themselves, so pious, just thinking that they were always in the right. After all, they did view Kain as their god. So with that being said, them being selected as kind of the favored of Kain, after all, Raziel was his favorite lieutenant, this would of course influence that whole ego, I would say. The whole clan would just be full of just righteousness, thinking that they were superior to everyone else. Now with that being said, this is where I'm drawing more from the development team. As far as the clan was concerned, their day-to-day actions or daily activities, they were mostly going to be, and I quote, artisans, philosophers, spellbinders, tacticians, blood bankers, and manipulators, unquote. This being said, I can actually see this from a good perspective, because out of all the brothers that Raziel has his other lieutenants who are his brothers, which are Kain's also his other followers. Raziel's the best spoken out of all of them. So it does make sense his clan would be philosophers, artisans, bankers even. Now, they may not be the smartest clan. The smartest would probably go to the Melkahim, but they definitely were the most literate. They were the most well-spoken clan, probably, that's ever existed. Again, we've never really seen them until the game Nosgoth, and all we know about them is a short story, which we're going to cover later in this video. But when it comes to this whole idea of them being pious, righteous individuals with a set moral code, it is pretty interesting to note that in the Legacy of Kain empire that they grew, this dark vampire empire, there was actually smaller clans besides the major ones that have existed that we know of. Supposedly, there were many minor clans that existed that were always being manipulated just for the amusement of the higher court. With that being said, the Razielum clan would be the number one perpetrators of manipulating and using their spellcraft to weigh in and spy on other minor clans and maybe fuck with the outcomes of certain issues or in certain intrigues that could develop between these clans. Now, nothing major would happen like one small clan takes over a major clan, but it was more for their own entertainment and amusement. After all, they are like gods amongst the lesser vampire clans, so it is their birthright. After all, they are their subjects in their empire for them to maybe mess around with. So already we have this loose moral code where they kind of do bad things, but they don't view it as a bad thing. This is the thing with Raziel. He views eating humans just as a necessary thing. But later in the series, he starts to realize how flimsy this moral code is that he keeps waving in other people's faces. So I find that very interesting. Something that should be said, though, is that although they don't seem to specialize in warfare, that doesn't actually make them the weakest in warfare. Because you see, many of the clans take up after their originator. In this case, Raziel. Now, Raziel has been noted by the development team and in the game as being very, very versatile, where he doesn't specialize in one field. He's not a magician, but the moment he picks up magic, he's damn good at it, almost perfect. So if he did set his mind to that, he could probably be the greatest sorcerer in the fucking world. He's also not a particularly great swordsman, but the moment he's got a sword in his hand, he's swinging that shit expertly. Even take on the mighty Kain, the greatest fucking swordsman they've got. So I do find that interesting, though, to inflict that upon his clan. They're not warriors like the Turellum, the Malachia and stuff, but they can, if they choose to be, great tacticians and great warriors at the same time, if again they devote themselves to it. Now, as far as we know, we do not know what killed the Razielum clan. We just don't know. Now, we do know this. Raziel was the first to transform. Out of all of his lieutenants and Kain himself, he was the first to transform. That being said, his clan would be the first to follow. The reason is that it's built in the Legacy of Kain lore where when a vampire mutates, those below him that are of his bloodline mutate shortly afterwards. Even the fledglings they get will start to mutate faster than they did. So you may be a vampire for 500 years and all of a sudden you mutate and grow talons instead of normal hands. Now your fledgling vampire that you just created, he may only be 100 years old and he's already going to start mutating and getting those talon hands quicker than you did. That being said, that doesn't mean that they're going to outpace you in evolution. That doesn't usually happen. Raziel is the exception. He actually outpaced Kain. He grew wings before Kain got any sort of gifts at all. That being said, this is considered a transgression. This is viewed as him gaining more power than Kain. Kain could not let this stand because although Raziel has no control over it, this is a threat to his empire. He's always looked at as a divine being. So this risks that image of a god king. So he kills him, has him executed, but what happens to his clan is not stated at all. All we know is this. His clan dies somehow, like their whole city is abandoned. Other vampires from other vampire clans are roaming in Raziel's clan cities, but none of his vampires are there. As far as Raziel's interaction with other beings, his brothers, Kain himself, Kain has just simply said, what I create, I can destroy. That's a very powerful statement, but that doesn't mean he's guilty as of yet. Because you see, as far as we know, the other clans, as again, according to the development team, it makes sense for the development team that the moment Raziel has lost favor with Kain, as I've stated earlier, they were a righteous bunch. They had no problems fucking with other clans just for their own amusement, just like all the other clans. So that being said, they don't really have any love from all the other clans. And with everyone else seeing, hey, Kain's first and favorite son slot just opened, let's wipe these guys out of the face of the fucking universe. Now nothing's protecting them, so we can gain power for ourselves, and maybe we can become Kain's favorite. So that's what they did. They massacred the elders and the adults of the Razielum, but it's not stated whether it was by Kain's orders or whether it was just a free-for-all. It was just a fucking bloodbath, just a feast, a little feeding frenzy. But we do know this from the canceled game Nosgoth, is that what happened was, before this had occurred, the Razielum clan hid their fledgling vampires who were mutating to grow wings, just like Raziel was. They hid them in a place known as the Fane. And when they hid them, it was a good fucking thing, because they just got attacked and lost all their elders. Now here's the problem. The fledglings, when they're done mutating, they kind of grow up and they're like, oh, whoa, where's our clan? Where is everybody? Everything is gone. They have no idea. They go to one of the traitor clans who betrayed them, and they actually go to the head vampire, the lieutenant, who they stand no fucking chance of fighting, by the way. They have no idea that their clan is annihilated by other vampires. Now, luckily for them, it turns out a huge vampire civil war was waged, and Cain pretty much disappeared for like a few years. And what happened is that all the vampires are fighting each other, trying to not only take over what was left of the Razielum, but they're also trying to take over each other, because again, Cain's not there to unify them. Well, upon meeting their fellow brothers, they are lied to, but they believe it, because again, they're righteous individuals. They were told that Razielum clan was treasonous, that they betrayed Cain, so the elders were wiped out, along with Raziel. But the fledglings are innocent of this crime. And it just turns out that the Vampire Civil War is about to end because the human race at the time has finally rebelled. They're no longer cattle. They're now militarizing and taking out vampire villages and cities. So, the leader of the clan comes up with this little fabricated lie in order to bring these winged vampires into his armies, which they fall to a knee and they fully believe it. They're like, oh my god, I can't believe we committed treason. Please vouch for us. We apologize. We will fight for you and we will quell your enemies down. Again, righteous, but their morals are kind of iffy. So, with that being said, the war for Nosgoth happened where vampires are fighting the insurrectionist humans. But Raziel's clan, the Razielum, are the flying masters, the ones who fly up above and swoop down, killing people, impaling them with their wings, ripping them to shreds, throwing them up in the air, and then just dropping them, watching them fall 400 feet to the ground. This, of course, is a surprise to many of the vampire clans. They go, whoa, who are these guys? Where are these guys from? And then the older vampires are like, I recall a vampire who had wings. And I recall what we did to him and his clan. These guys don't seem to hold a grudge, though, which is kind of odd. Now, we don't know what happened after the War of Nosgoth. What happened to the rest of the Razielum? Were they killed off, fighting for the vampires against the humans? Were they alive, but then later betrayed again? Who knows? No one knows. But we do know this. The Razielum clan were the first to evolve. That means they're the first to devolve as well. This is not good news. You see, when the vampires evolved, they also risked devolution. They were going to devolve into beasts, monstrous animals, because of the corruption of Nosgoth has seeped into them. The corruption that Cain also bears. So, here's the issue, as I said with the Pillars of Nosgoth video that I did. If the pillars fall, the land corrupts. The people get extremely mutated and fucked, and the monsters turn even more monstrous. Well, some of the concept art of the Razielum for Soul Reaver 1 depicted them more as bats. So now you would have them with echolocation, which again is in the game Nosgoth, where they do have some echolocation. They wear helmets that cover their eyes. So it's pretty logical to assume that if we were to see them in the Soul Reaver game, they would probably be bats. After all, some of them look like sharks. Some of them look like spiders. Raziel's clan may be nothing more than monstrous mutated bats. So, that being said, this has been Freezer 700 on the Razielum clan. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, comment down below what you guys think. Maybe you guys think that my personal theories are bullshit. Maybe you guys think my personal theories are pretty damn spot on. Besides that, just know there wasn't much lore to work with, so I did have to pull from outside sources, which would be the development team, which I'm usually not a big fan of, especially with Harry Potter. If you ever looked at Harry Potter, what the author says about it, she says, like, Hermione is black, when in the books themselves it says that she's got beautiful pale skin. So when it comes to drawing from a development team, I usually don't like it. But in this case, I was willing to make an exception because the development team did make a weird sort of sense. And most of this was left to player interpretation. So again, your interpretation could be totally different than mine. But this is my take. So with that being said, see you guys next time. As always, comment down below more suggestions. And hey, if you like it, don't forget to subscribe.